Something is happening in Southern Africa because in Botswana, their newly elected president made headlines recently when he declared that no diamond will leave this country again unprocessed. Those words sent shockwaves through the continent, delivered by President Duma Boko, but felt far beyond Botswana's borders. President Duma didn't whisper it in a closed-door meeting. He said it with cameras rolling, mics on, and eyes wide open. In that moment, Botswana, a country long praised for its political stability and investor friendliness, did the unthinkable. It joined the revolution currently sweeping across Africa. And here's the twist. It didn't come out of nowhere, because in 2024, Botswana's diamond production collapsed by 27%, and the nation's earnings nosedived by a whooping 46%. The economy didn't just slow, it staggered. That crash exposed something Botswana's leaders could no longer ignore: the fragility of a system built on exporting unprocessed wealth and importing refined dependence. For years, Botswana, a 50-50 venture between Botswana's government and De Beers, controlled the tap. But under Boko's leadership, the rules are changing fast. Because here's what many missed. While the world was focused on the revolution in West Africa, a different kind of uprising was brewing in the South. A revolution not of bullets and berets, but of contracts and concessions, of shutting the gates to raw export and building infrastructure to keep value within the continent. And now, for the first time, President Boko has extended an invitation to the most loved African voice in our struggle for sovereignty, Captain Ibrahim Traoré of Burkina Faso. Yes, the same Traoré who kicked out France, the one that nationalized gold and told foreign corporations that their free ride is over. Why President Boko suddenly start to echo the Pan-African resource control rhetoric? We must at this point tread carefully at any leader who shows up saying what we, the African youth, love to hear. Because while it may look like the revolution is spreading fast, there's something deeper at play. And in the next scene, we unpack why Boko's sudden Pan-African turn might be more complicated than it seems. On the surface, President Duma Boko doesn't fit the mode of a revolutionary. He's not from the military. He didn't take power through a coup. He's a civilian president, a trained constitutional lawyer, elected in 2024 through one of Botswana's most closely watched elections. And yet, here he is, standing shoulder to shoulder with the loudest voices of Africa's economic revolution. But don't blink, because this is where they hide the truth. Because while the headlines celebrated his historic win, what they didn't mention is who he replaced: the Botswana Democratic Party, a loyal Western ally that ruled uninterrupted for 60 long years. Under their watch, Botswana's resources flowed out like clockwork. De Beers, the Anglo-American mining giant, was more than just a business partner. It was practically embedded in the country's identity. But now, that legacy is under fire. Boko didn't just take the presidency. He took a sledgehammer to a system of quiet compliance. And when he invited Ibrahim Traoré, a man blacklisted by Western powers, to Botswana, it wasn't just optics. It was a signal flare. A clear message that Gaborone, once the poster child of Western investment, was recalibrating its future, not through slogans, but through action. Still, here is the part we must not ignore. While Boko's rhetoric is bold, his relationships are delicate. Just a few months ago, he visited the United States, meeting with Secretary of State Marco Rubio in Washington. Botswana still enjoys close ties with the US military and participates in joint operations under AFRICOM. That's not a small detail, because history taught us not every handshake is harmless. So while Traoré's potential visit could symbolize continental unity, it could also open doors that are better left closed. And as I always say, watch the ones who smile the hardest. Sometimes they have the sharpest knives, because in geopolitics, not every smile is sincere and not every invitation is innocent. While Traoré may be walking into a photo op, he could also be walking into a trap, a stage-managed moment designed to soften his image or neutralize his influence. And let's be clear, a revolutionary has no friends in a house built by the empire. And Botswana is technically the favorite house of the empire in Southern Africa, because what comes next could shift the entire game board. Next, we unpack who Duma Gideon really is and why Botswana's sudden shift may not be as organic as it looks. To understand the weight of President Boko's declaration, you have to understand the world Botswana was designed to please. Because for decades, this landlocked nation of just over 2 million people has been the West poster child for good governance. No coups, no fairy speeches, no nationalizations, just diamonds and lots of it, flowing predictably through joint ventures with De Beers, the world's most powerful diamond company, originally South African and now British. For years, Botswana exported raw diamonds in exchange for stability and status. The government profited, investors cheered, Western capitals applauded, and Botswana became the textbook case used at global summits and economic forums to show that Africa could play nice within the system. But here's what they don't tell you. Why Botswana exported billions in diamonds? It imported unemployment. It exported copper and nickel, but imported refined products at a higher price. Its partnerships with multinationals delivered revenue, but not transformation. De Beers operated the cotton and polishing in Europe, not in Gaborone, not in Francistan. And while the people stayed loyal to the promise of progress, actual industrial development remained stalled, deliberately outsourced. Now, President Boko says, no more. But was this spontaneous awakening or the result of pressure from Botswana citizens? Because across the continent, that model is cracking. And now, the same Western ally Botswana is suddenly inviting Traoré, echoing Mali and Burkina Faso and declaring full value addition at home. It's a stunning shift. But what or who really sparked it? In the next scene, we look at the domino effect sweeping across the continent, from uranium in Niger to lithium in Zimbabwe, and how Botswana's pivot fits into a revolution much bigger than diamonds. Across the continent, the lines are being drawn, not just in speeches, but in policy, not just in protest, but in law, and not just in Burkina Faso, Mali, or Niger, but now in Southern Africa too. We are witnessing the rise of a bold new Africa, where governments are not just questioning the old model, they are ripping it apart. Burkina Faso nationalized gold and launched a state-backed refinery to keep value within the continent. Mali took full control of the Morila gold mine and one barrick gold that their empire ends at Mali's borders. Niger, long stripped of uranium to light French homes, now calls it a strategic asset and suspended exports. Zimbabwe banned all raw lithium exports. Namibia restricted the export of unprocessed rare earth minerals. Guinea ordered in-country bauxite refining. Ghana recently expelled foreign gold companies. And now, Botswana, once the West's quiet success story, has joined the revolution. This aren't scattered event. They are a coordinated revolt, a conscious rejection of a colonial value chain that has kept Africa rich in resources but poor in power. But here's the catch. Not all African countries are on the same page. Because Nigeria, one of the biggest economies in Africa, still clings to the export-first model. When Aliko Dangote, the continent's richest man, built a $20 billion refinery to break Nigeria's dependence on imported fuel, you would expect the government's full backing. Instead, oil ministries and entrenched interests moved against it. They stored licenses, withheld crude. Even at this very moment, the country's oil company still imports fuel from Europe and is in direct competition with the local refinery just to keep the old system alive. One continent, two visions. One fighting to break free, the other chained to its old habits. Next, we reveal how the West is quietly fighting back against this continental awakening, using banks, headlines, and diplomacy to crush the fire before it spreads even further. As Africa begins to reclaim its resources, the pushbacks has been swift and ruthless. In boardrooms, foreign investors call it market instability. In newsrooms, editors label it authoritarian overreach. On Wall Street, analysts describe it as a threat to global supply chains. But let's be honest here. What they are really reacting to is the loss of control. When Mali revoked foreign mining licenses, credit rating agencies like Moody's slashed its score, cutting off access to global capital. When Ghana expelled several foreign gold firms, the financial press cried foul, not on behalf of the Ghanaian citizens, but on the behalf of foreign corporations benefiting from Africa's resource extraction. When Zimbabwe banned lithium export unless processed locally, Western companies threatened lawsuits. Diplomats started calling. Pressure mounted. According to multiple reports, credit downgrades had become a strategic weapon. not based on macroeconomic data, but on whether a country obeys or resists the old order. The message is clear. Assert sovereignty and you pay the price. And it doesn't stop at ratings. First, they attack the leaders. Traoré, labeled a military dictator. Goïta in Mali, branded a destabilizer. General Chiani in Niger, dismissed as a populist. And now, even President Boko, a civilian president, a constitutional lawyer, is being portrayed as too radical simply for wanting to possess diamonds at home. But on the streets of Ouagadougou, Bamako, Niamey, and now Gaborone, the people aren't buying it. They are waving flags of their own nations, not the EU or France. They are cheering local refineries, not foreign investors. And that's what terrifies the old powers the most. Because if Africa controls its wealth, it controls its future. And that future is slipping out of their hands. But this story isn't over yet. Because coming up next, we connect the dots and ask the bigger question. Is Africa finally waking up or just another fleeting moment? This isn't just a story about Botswana or Burkina Faso or Mali. This is a story about whether Africa, for the first time in centuries, will control its destiny. For far too long, we've been told that progress means compliance, that to grow, we must borrow, that to attract investment, we must give away what we have and import what we need, that Africa cannot rise unless someone else holds the steering wheel. But today, something is shifting. One by one, African nations are pulling the handbrakes on extraction for export. They are rewriting contracts, reclaiming mines, processing minerals on home soil. From uranium to gold, lithium to diamonds, a quiet revolution has turned into a full-scale uprising. And while the headlines call it nationalism, Africans are calling it what it really is: freedom. Now, this movement is testing the very DNA of post-colonial Africa. It's revealing who's willing to cut the umbilical cord and who's still feeding from it. Countries like Zimbabwe, Niger, Guinea, Mali, Burkina Faso, Ghana, and Namibia have made their stance very clear. But others, like Nigeria, remain caught in the old web, where elites sabotage local refineries to protect foreign profit. Still, the momentum is undeniable. What started in Sahel is now spreading to Southern and Eastern Africa. And every time one nation says no more rare export, it lights a signal fire across the continent. This could be Africa's economic independence moment, not declared with flags and speeches, but with factories, refineries, and hard policy. But revolutions don't succeed because they are loud. They succeed because they last. Next, we reflect on what this moment demands from all of us and whether Africa is finally ready to finish what it started. Let me get this straight. What we are witnessing is not just a shift in policy, it's a shift in mindset. For the first time in decades, African leaders are no longer asking for seats at foreign tables. They are building their own. They are not waiting for aid. They are demanding for equity, and they are not exporting silence anymore. They are exporting courage. President Duma Boko's declaration, "No diamond will leave this country unprocessed," may have sounded like a national policy, but in truth, it was a continental alarm bell. It told every African watching that it's not too late to take back what is truly ours. And yes, his invitation to Ibrahim Traoré was symbolic, but it was also a signal, a message that even the quiet ones are waking up. Still, we must remain vigilant. Some leaders, while echoing the language of sovereignty, still entertain military drills with AFRICOM, still smile at photo ops in Washington, still sign contracts in backrooms that contradict their public stance. We must support our revolutionaries, but never stop questioning them. Caution is not cynicism, it's protection. Because this moment is fragile. It can be crushed, not by guns, but by debt, not by invasion, but by manipulation. And so, the responsibility lies with all of us, not just to watch, but to act. We are no longer asking for permission, we are taking position. This is Frontline Africa. If you believe in unfiltered truth and power told from where it matters, right here on our continent, then hit that subscribe button. Join your voice to ours in the comments and tell us what you think. African youths are finally awake. I am Ezekiel Enejeta. See you in the next one.